Hello everyone! In this video we'll discuss about the traps in Philidor defense. While playing Philidor defense, Black should be very careful about the first few moves and even the order in which they should be played. There are many traps lurking around, and if Black is not cautious, he will lose material very early in the game. So let's look at some seemingly natural variations and how they turn out to be mistakes. Philidor defense starts with White playing e4, e5, and f3, d6. So this is Philidor defense supporting the pawn on e5. Now White plays d4. He controls the center and attacks the pawn on e5. Main line for Black here is to capture on d4 by playing ed4. But let's look at some other natural variations. One of them is playing knight d7, supporting the pawn on e5, and White develops the bishop with bishop c4. So here, if Black plays knight g f6, which is very natural, then White can play knight g5, attacking on f7 pawn, and there is no possible defense against it. So Black loses a pawn here, and maybe castling too. So that's not a good idea. Let's go back. If not nf6, then another natural looking move is bishop e7, thinking that he will develop the knight to f6 later, and after knight g5, then he can castle, defending the pawn on f7. So if Black plays bishop e7, then White can play d5. And if d5, then he can play queen d5, attacking both the e5 pawn and f7 pawn, and he will lose one or the other. So this is losing too. When White played d5, if Black plays knight e5, then White can capture knight e5, d5, then queen h5, attacking two pawns again, and defending them both is not possible. So Black loses in this variation too. So you can see how the natural looking move bishop e7 doesn't work, and also knight f6 doesn't work. So one way of continuing the game is by playing c6. And if Black plays c6, then White can play knight g5, attacking the pawn on f7. So the only defense against it is by playing knight h6. And now a4. This is a devious move. You'll see why. And obviously, the natural looking move here is bishop e7. But here, ideally, Black should have played ad4. And after queen d4, even if White is slightly better because of his piece position and control of the center, and he has more space, but it's not enough to win. But let's go back to our natural looking move and see what happens there. So here, if Black plays bishop e7, then White surprises him by capturing the pawn on f7 with bishop f7. And if Black captures the bishop back with knight f7, then knight e6, attacking the queen. And the only move here is to play queen b6. Then White can play a5, attacking the queen again. He can't play queen a6 because there is knight c7 check, and that's a fork. He cannot even play queen b5 for the same reason, so even this is not possible. And the only move is to play queen b4 check. And now White can play c3, attacking the queen again. Now the only move is to play queen c4, attacking the knight, and White can put a check with knight c7, and if Black plays king d8, then knight a3, and this queen is trapped. So White wins a queen here. You can see how important it is to have knowledge of openings and traps. You might be a great player, but if you don't know the opening lines and don't take the time to think through the first few moves, then this is how bad it can get. Let's look at another variation which is bishop g4 in the third move. So here, after d4, if black plays bishop g4, pinning the knight, then white can play d5. If black captures d5, then he can take the queen, black takes the queen, and white wins a pawn on e5. So taking back on e5 for black is not a good move. Instead, he can capture on f3 by bishop f3. If white takes back on queen f3, then he can take the pawn back on e5. That's my battery power, it's low. Okay, this doesn't take more than a minute. So after the e5, white can play bishop c4, attacking the pawn on f7. Now, the most natural looking move again, knight f6, is a mistake. And in fact, what black should have played is queen d7, but for knight f6, queen b3, black loses because these two pawns are attacked and it's not possible to defend them both again. So that's Philidor defense and the traps in Philidor defense. Hope you enjoyed this short video. Thanks and see you later. Bye-bye.